I think we all could predict that Donald Trump's farewell press conference with Elon Musk was going to be a disaster. But the reason it was so bad, I don't think any of us saw coming, including Donald Trump, because Fox reporter Peter Doocy confronted him to his face over his relationship with and the possibility of pardoning the rapper Diddy, who is facing countless abuse charges and is on trial right now. And Donald Trump was so stunned, he struggled to give an answer, was meandering all over the place, and completely imploded in a disaster of a response. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, this press conference covered lots of topics, and Donald Trump kind of ramped himself up to this insane response. I want to start with the first question he was asked, and that was about Jill Biden for some reason right here.
Do you think that Dr. Jill Biden should also have to come in and testify about what she did or didn't do?
Well, I hate the concept of it. It's the wife of a man who was going through a lot of problems, and everybody that dealt with him understood that. And I guess it came out during the debate loud and clear. That was the biggest signal of all. They have to do what's right. The country was, there was a lot of dishonesty in the election, as you know, of 2020. That's been now caught. People understand it was a rigged election. And when you go further out, when you see the auto pen, I mean, I think the auto pen is going to become one of the great scandals of all time, because you have somebody operating it or a number of people operating. Because I knew Joe Biden. Joe Biden wasn't in favor of opening up borders, letting 21 million people into this from prisons and mental institutions and gang members. He wasn't into that at all. And you know, who signed these orders, proclamations, and all of the different things that he signed that set our country so far back, that was so bad for our country?
With the auto pen, how would it work? Like, we're in the Oval Office.
So in a press conference about Elon Musk and his time at Doge, his failures at Doge, Donald Trump is asked about Jill Biden and how he wants to investigate her. But the questions about the Bidens didn't stop there, because Donald Trump continued to ramble on about Joe. And listen to the disgusting remark he made right here.
Look, he's been a sort of a moderate person over his lifetime, not a smart person, but a somewhat vicious person, I will say. If you feel sorry for him, don't feel so sorry, because he's vicious. What he did with his political opponent and all of the people that he hurt a lot of people, Biden. And so I really don't feel sorry for him. But
Donald Trump says he doesn't feel bad for Joe Biden after his cancer diagnosis. What is wrong with these people? This is the party that claims that it's pro-life and it's loving and it's embracing, and it's the Democrats who talk down to you and they're so awful and so evil. But this is what Donald Trump is saying. It's just so gross. I don't know. I guess we could have expected this, though. But again, what we couldn't expect is that Peter Doocy at this press conference was asking real questions. And he also pressed Elon Musk on a breaking New York Times story about his drug use. And take a look at Elon's response.
The president mentioned that you had to deal with all the slings and arrows during your time at Doge. There's this.
Well, some of the people, some of the media organizations in this room were the slingers.
Well, so there is a New York Times report today that accuses you of blurring the line between.
Is the New York Times, is that the same publication that got a Pulitzer Prize for false reporting on the Russiagate? Is it the same organization?
I got to check my Pulitzer counter.
it is.
I think the judge just ruled against the New York Times for their lies about the Russiagate hoax, and that they might have to give back that Pulitzer Prize. That New York Times. Let's move on.
Okay, then next question. Trump, I got one for President Trump. So President Trump.
So very clearly that question from Peter Doocy got underneath Elon's skin, because not only did he not respond in any real way addressing the question, he shut Peter Doocy down before he could even complete the thought. He knew the New York Times story that he was talking about, but in trying to refute the story about his drug use and how much it has affected him, he was just kind of like freaking out and making weird motions and like struggling to speak. I know that's kind of Elon, but throughout this entire press conference, and not just because of the weird black eye that he has that might be a result of his fight with Stephen Miller over his wife. Elon just demonstrated how out of it he was. He was constantly looking at the ceiling. He was kind of moving around in strange ways. But that wasn't enough to distract from what Donald Trump was asked, like I said, by Peter Doocy about if he would pardon Diddy or not. Just take a look at what he had to say.
Apprentice, you mentioned once in 2012 that Diddy was a good friend of yours back then. He has since found himself in some very serious legal trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Would you ever consider pardoning him?
Well, nobody's asked. You had to be the one to ask, Peter, but nobody's asked. But I know people are thinking about it. I know they're thinking about it. I think some people have been very close to asking. First of all, I'd look at what's happening, and I haven't been watching it too closely, although it's certainly getting a lot of coverage. I haven't seen him. I haven't spoken to him in years. He used to really like me a lot, but I think when I ran for politics, that relationship busted up. From what I read, I don't know. He didn't tell me that, but I'd read some little bit nasty statements in the paper all of a sudden. It's different. You become a much different person when you run for politics and you do what's right. I could do other things, and I'm sure he'd like me, and I'm sure other people would like me, but it wouldn't be as good for our country. As we said, our country's doing really well because of what we're doing. So it's not a popularity contest. So I don't know. I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact on me.
Mr. President.
The fact that he is even considering this is insanity. And Donald Trump saying, I don't really care if you're nice to me or not. I just want to help people who have been treated poorly. All Donald Trump cares about is who is nice to him. He's been giving out pardons for $1 million checks. That is how Donald Trump operates his system of pardons. Of course, it's about whether or not someone is nice to Donald Trump. He was asked the question about the abuse that has been alleged against Diddy and that he is currently on trial for, talking about the great relationship that they had. And all he wants to say is he used to like me. Quite frankly, he thought I was great. So I was yeah, of course you're just a narcissist obsessed with yourself. This is just I can't even explain how insane it is that this is the moment that we are in right now. How is this happening? It is just nonsensical constantly, and didn't get any better when Elon Musk was finally asked about what everyone I think in that room was thinking about his black eye. Just look at what he said.
I wanted to ask quickly, Mr. Musk, is your eye okay? What happened to your eye? I noticed there's a bruise there.
Well, it wasn't. I wasn't anywhere near France, so.
What does that mean?
No.
I didn't notice it.
First lady of France.
I didn't notice.
So, I was just horsing around with little X, and I said, go ahead, punch me in the face, and he did. Turns out even a 5-year-old punching you in the face actually does.
That was X that did?
Yeah, so I don't believe that. I think it was Stephen Miller. I think they got a bit of a skirmish. What is going on? I hate to laugh, but there's no real other response you can have. These people are so strange. They are so self-absorbed. And it doesn't just stop with Donald Trump and Elon, because a story that just came up, I think, is really connected to the weird behavior that we see out of Elon, someone so obsessed with his online persona. Donald Trump, obviously the biggest narcissist in America. But Congresswoman Nancy Mace, the Republican from South Carolina, just had new reporting about what she was making her staff do for her to make her feel better at the end of the day. Just take a look.
One of the fundamental problems we're having as a country right now is that many of the things that make people good at getting elected, specifically in this age, the ability to generate attention, no matter the kind, doesn't make those people good at running the country. I mean, obviously, Donald Trump is the prime example of this, but there are a bunch of other people who this applies to as well. One that really comes to mind is Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace of South Carolina. The Daily Beast reported in 2023 that Mace's staffers were told they, quote, needed to book Mace on national TV outlet between 1 and 3 times per day, a staggering 9 times per week at minimum. Now, Wired reports Mace's former staffers say she had them make burner accounts to promote and defend her online. Quote, we had to make multiple accounts, burner accounts, and go and reply to comments saying things that weren't true. Even Reddit forums, a former staffer says. We were congressional staff, and there were actual things we could be doing to help the constituents. Jake LaHud is a senior writer for Wired who broke this story. He has been covering Nancy Mace for years. He actually wrote that 2023 Daily Beast piece as well and he joins me now. It's good to have you here.
Good to be back in person.
So tell me about the burner accounts here.
So these are essentially, Mace has her own set of them, and I've gotten suggestions about which ones may be hers that, I cannot confirm yet. But then you have the staff side.
Wait, but let's just stop there. So she has her own, what her staff says is she has accounts that she makes that aren't her official accounts. They're just like random people who then come into social media to like defend her.
Yeah, not necessarily a Mitt Romney Pierre Delecto type deal, from my understanding. But yeah, to follow, monitor, see what people are saying about her, and push back on folks.
Right.
But then at the staffer level is where it gets really unconventional and weird, because they're doing battle with randos in the comments on take your pick of social media sites. And I mean, the Reddit one especially struck me as like quite a deep cut and wild. But I think, this is the recurring theme when we've talked about Mace. She has this kind of unadulterated, rather pure insight into what drives attention now, and kind of how the fractured media ecosystem means you got to be everywhere, you got to try everything.
Yeah, I want to. This was also a wild part of the reporting. Wesley Donahue, whose firm did consulting work for Mace, said in a deposition. This is a deposition.
Yes.
She programs her own bots. She sets up Twitter burner accounts. This is the kind of thing she does. She sits all night on the couch and programs bots because she's very, very computer savvy. She controls her own voter database. She programs a lot of her own websites. She programs Facebook bots and Instagram bots and Twitter bots. It's what she does for fun. This is someone saying this in a deposition to essentially an unrelated lawsuit.
Yeah, in South Carolina Civil Court. I think she's a good example, actually, of this thing you describe in your book about the kind of spectrum from boomers to Gen X on down, where the more scarce information was early in your career, the kind of more hungry you are for like whatever could come your way. And she came up in the early internet. She's 47 years old. Yeah. And what was interesting in talking about the way she describes herself as a self-taught coder, which has been part of her political biography since the beginning, is that one of these people is like, hey, I never saw her coding anything. That's not the quote in the story, but I can't say it on TV.
Right.
The other odd part of it is she's basically using like rudimentary tools that are available for anyone with a public Facebook account, anyone with an Instagram, like a professional page where you can automate comments. Like if someone says, "Thank you, Nancy," it can give an automated response.
This is the Republican Party. It is a party of petty politics and personal grievance. Donald Trump is considering pardoning Diddy if he says nice things about him again. That's how you win over presidential power, with million-dollar checks and compliments to Donald Trump. Nancy Mace, a member of Congress, is so insecure she needs her staff to write fake positive tweets for her. These are the people running our country. That's terrifying. We're going to continue to call it out every single day on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.